Hi, this is Oliver from the International Macrobiotics School. I thought I'd talk briefly about a very pertinent subject this time of year, which is how to keep warm. And I want to talk first of all about this in general terms for everybody. And then I particularly want to concentrate on help for people who are really suffer from the cold at this time of year, either cold hands, feet, extremities, or feel deeply cold in the body, which often goes along with feeling really emotionally low and depressed and unmotivated and so on as well. So mostly I'm going to be talking about help for those people, but also let's just talk about generally how to keep ourselves warm at this time of year. So here I am sitting in the school office. We have a little wood burner, which is very nice and keeps us really toasty. We're in a really nice kind of countryside here. Nice place to be working. Actually gets too hot with that little fire going in here. We have to start opening the windows, which is a bit ridiculous. So some good heating helps. However, what else can we do to generally keep warm at this time of year? Food-wise, we want to be eating seasonally. This is not the time of year to be eating lots of raw foods, salads, fruit, which is nice for the health and tasty, but is also cooling for the body. You might eat a bit of fruit, but we'd probably more cook it this time of year. Have some baked apples, fruit crumbles, things like that. We also, assuming eating a whole food diet, more plant-based whole food diet, at this time of year, we need more dishes which are long cooked. Summer, more short cooked, more raw foods. Winter, more long cooked food. That doesn't mean everything's long cooked. You also need some light, fresh stuff to give it some freshness and openness and spontaneity and joy and bring some energy up to the heart and give us joy. But we need more long cooked dishes. So this is things like bean stews, casseroles, longer cooked soups, thick vegetable soups, longer cooked grains, maybe using a pressure cooker to cook beans, and maybe using a pressure cooker to cook grains like short grain brown rice, maybe mixed with chestnuts, which are nice and warming. These longer cooked foods, more heat energy goes into them. We eat them, and then that heat goes into the body. Soups are also very good, hot liquid. If you eat some animal food, then a bit more fish this time of year, which in Oriental medicine is particularly strengthening the deep energy in the body, and the kidney energy is useful as well. Also using a bit more salt in the winter to make food a little bit more yang in macrobiotic terms and more warm. The things we don't want to be consuming a lot of are things which in macrobiotics we describe as more yin foods or more expansive foods, which take the energy up and out of the body. So this includes, as I say, eating a lot of fruit, especially tropical fruits, fruit juices, bit of vegetable juice maybe. Good to be eating pickles, vegetable pickles, kimchi. Is this fermented with salt foods very useful for our digestion and liver and so on. Maybe a little bit of raw food, but not a large amount. Avoiding caffeine, the odd tipple of alcohol when we want to bring a bit more energy into our hearts, a bit more joy and lift, but really not overdoing the alcohol. And not overdoing sugar as well, which also takes us out. So if you're feeling cold, don't turn to sugar to warm you up. Better to have a miso soup. That may sound a bit strange. Nice sugary, sweet thing. Miso soup, not very similar, but actually you'll find the miso soup or shoyu broth or any kind of broth soup will deeply warm you up. What these more strong yin things do, like a coffee or alcohol or sugar, they bring our energy up and out, so we feel a quick flush of energy, but it doesn't last long, and then it leaves us feeling colder. So we need lots of these deep warming foods. Good to be active this time of year, good to be physically active. Don't kind of curl up and hibernate. We need to be physically active because that's how we generate heat in the body. And also, Oriental medicine would really stress keeping your kidneys warm, as the kidneys, adrenal glands, lower back, lower abdomen being the place where, like our reservoir of energy and heat in the body. You need to keep this warm. So wearing thermal underwear can be very good. If you do really suffer from low kidney energy, then it's good to have some thermal underwear, which comes at top, which comes down to the crease of your bottom. And then you have some bottoms, which come up to at least your navel, maybe a little bit higher. And then you've got 2 layers of thermals over this part of your body. We're keeping this part of your body warm. And also keeping your feet warm. So getting some good quality thick socks, wool socks and so on will also help. If you don't have a lot of hair like me, also wearing a hat can be really useful because we lose a lot of heat through our heads. So those are some general recommendations. Very simple. Eating seasonally, being active, really very simple, but the answer to a lot of problems can be very simple. So I just had a little online celebration of our last online second year course, and one of the students who lives in Sweden says that she suffered for years in the winter, feeling cold and cold extremities and feeling miserable. And the last couple of winters she's felt really good, no problems at all. Fantastic. So now let's talk about what happens if you really suffer from the cold a lot. I want to kind of divide this into kind of 2 different categories, because 2 different causes. The first is having poor circulation, where your hands, your feet, maybe your nose, your ears get really cold, maybe start stinging, but you don't feel especially cold deep in your body. It's more the extremities. So this might be called poor circulation. Often the hands, when you're warm, may be quite red, quite pink. But when you go out in the cold, they really get cold easily. The toes get cold easily. So people often call this poor circulation. So in Oriental medicine, this would be seen as the heart energy having become weak. Our heart is pumping blood around the body and also heat around the body. And when this action becomes low, then the heat, the blood gets out, but the heat doesn't get out to our extremities, and then we can have stingy fingers, toes, more likely to get chilblains on the toes, etc. So how do we help our heart energy? What doesn't help, especially this time of year, going back to what I was saying before about seasonal eating, what really weakens the heart energy at this time of year is a lot of those yin expansive foods, eating a lot of raw foods, a lot of fruit juices, smoothies, alcohol, caffeine, sugar, and all of those kind of things. If ordinarily when you're in a house and you look at your hands and the fingers or the whole hands are really quite red, at kind of normal temperatures, that is because your blood vessels have expanded because you're eating a lot of these expansive foods. It's a bit trendy to think about having smoothies and eating lots of fruit and fruit juices and things like that. Actually, I think that's beginning to go a little bit out of fashion. A lot of scientific information saying actually it's not good to eat a lot of fruit because it contains fruit sugars, and these have quite an impact on the body if we're overeating fruit, even though it's fructose rather than glucose. So really need to cut down on those more summery foods and eat more wintry foods, whole foods. Whole grains, whole beans, vegetables, especially root vegetables. Things like carrots, parsnips are really much more warming for the body. And for the heart, especially some bitter foods. Often we can avoid bitter foods, Well, apart from two, which are very popular, chocolate, particularly dark chocolate, and also coffee, particularly black coffee or coffee with not a lot of milk in. Both of those are bitter foods, but they both go to the heart and weaken the heart energy. So, for example, people get heart palpitations. You find that coffee, or particularly coffee, can bring on heart palpitations. So instead, we want to eat more naturally bitter foods, or bitter foods, bitter whole foods. So this is things like greens, things like kale, and any dark leafy greens have a slightly bitter taste. So you can just cut them up finely, steam them, fry them, add add a little bit of flavoring to them. If you find them a little bit too bitter, make a dressing, make a tahini dressing, or some kind of oil vinegar kind of dressing to make it a bit more palatable. Roasted sesame seeds. In macrobiotics, we make gamazu a lot, a Japanese tradition made from sesame salt, made from lightly roasting, and then grinding sesame seeds along with a little bit of sea salt. Very, very strengthening for the heart energy. Normally make it in a ratio of about 1 part salt to about 16 parts sesame seeds. We can sprinkle 1 or 2 teaspoonfuls on our food at meal times. This is a bitter taste that helps strengthen the heart. Walnuts. Eating a few walnuts, also just lightly roasted, kind of brings out that quality. Also grain coffees, things like Yano, barley cup, chicory drink have a bitter taste. Having those rather than coffee or black tea. Also dandelion coffee. If you can get a pure dandelion coffee, not one which has lactose in, and you simmer it, well, it might be an instant one, or you can also get little chunks of dried dandelion which you simmer, and that has and have it dark. That has a nice bitter taste. So these bitter tastes help bring more energy into the heart and gradually help strengthen the circulation. Then other things may help the heart as well. Lifestyle-wise, our heart is where we make heart-to-heart contact with other people. What also nourishes the heart is loving connections with other people, chatting with friends, having hugs, having physical contact. Curling up with someone, if you have someone to curl up with, very heartwarming and nourishing. Or maybe with an animal, works pretty well too, a cat or a dog, or what other animals you might have. But if you might be able to curl up with them, a ferret or something, but curling up with another animal, doesn't have to be human, brings energy into our heart because we have that heart connection. On the other hand, if we over socialize, then that can exhaust our heart energy. And sometimes you may have had the feeling of, God, I just don't want to be with people anymore. I want to shut my door, be on my own. I just need some time on my own. Often that's because our heart energy has become exhausted, and we need some time on our own for our energy to come back into our heart and for us to get a sense of self and our needs again. So just feel out what you need from other people and relationships. Of course, some physical activity is also stimulating for the circulation. This doesn't have to be really heavy exercise. It could be, brisk walk, 5, 10 or more minutes. It could be doing some dancing. It could be jumping up and down, a bit of skipping, doing some rowing exercise or some other kind of exercise. A little bit more aerobic exercise rather than really, much more kind of still exercises. Are going to stimulate the circulation. So obviously wearing good gloves. If your feet get pretty cold and can't warm up, get a bowl of, there's a kind of temporary measure. Just get a washing up bowl with some hot water in. If you want to make it more effective, you can grate root ginger, squeeze that juice in. That also stimulates the circulation. Just soak your feet. Don't let your feet get really cold if your feet are really cold, it's like it affects the whole body energy. It's like the whole body can't really get warm. So if you're in that state, warm up your feet to warm up the rest of your body. Okay, so it's a little bit about coldness from weak circulation. I should just mention one other aspect of cold circulation, which is Raynaud's disease. This is much more unusual. With Raynaud's, people's fingers can go completely white and numb. So this is not just like poor circulation where the hands are red and they're all just cold. This is where a particular one goes really white and numb. This actually has a kind of opposite course. Poor circulation, as I described, is generally from weak heart energy and weak circulation. Raynaud's disease is coming more when there's a lot of tension and tightness in the body. Everybody I've seen with Raynaud's have holding a lot of tightness, a lot of tension in their liver and in their solar plexus. And because they're holding a lot of tension here, the energy is not coming up into the heart and then into the circulation. And it's interesting how the Raynaud's often comes on not only when they go in the cold, but often it's when they're more tense because they're more stressed or they're having to really push or something like that. Yeah. So this is maybe a little bit more complicated to resolve, but needing to relax this part of the body through food, exercise, emotional work, etc., etc. And it can be quite a slow problem to change, but I've definitely seen people do a lot. So now let's go on to the second part of feeling deeply cold, which is where you feel cold really deep in your body, in your bones, in the core of your body. And then, of course, you may feel cold in your extremities and especially the feet as well. And one tends to feel pretty down and depressed and miserable and just constantly dreaming of being in a hot country and in the warmth and in the sun, because you know that you would just feel a lot better in that situation. So in Oriental medicine, this is coming because the store of our deep energy in the body, the kidneys and the adrenals, have become low, become depleted. And not only do we not have enough heat in this cold realm, but we just don't have enough energy either. And so we feel emotionally down, miserable, unmotivated, maybe just want to curl up and hibernate under a duvet in a nice warm room right for the winter, which isn't usually possible. So how does our kidney energy get so low? A number of different ways. One way is just by using too much energy up on a daily basis. We live in a bit of modern culture as a bit of a push culture. Always, you want something, push, get more, do more, work harder. We need to balance activity with rest, with doing fun things, with having a kit, with having good sleep, with doing things which nourish us. There has to be a balance. We need nourishment to get energy into our body so that we can then be active. If we are overactive continuously for months or years, we will burn out our internal energy. And so many people I see these days are in. Well, I see quite a lot of people who are burnt out, really burnt out, have chronic fatigue. This also contributes to long COVID symptoms. If you have low kidney energy and you have COVID, then you may not recover for a long time because the kidney energy is not strong enough to push that recovery. It can really push the COVID out and the effects of the COVID out into the body. It used to be called post-viral fatigue syndrome. Another name for chronic fatigue was post-viral fatigue syndrome. So in the UK, we now have something like between 1 and 1.5 million, apparently, people with long COVID or post-viral fatigue syndrome. This depends a bit on the symptoms. Most of the symptoms are connected with low kidney energy. Some are connected with low lung energy and other parts of the body as well. So we need to manage our energy. particularly as we get older, so that we maintain good energy levels the whole time. Um, um, I'm kind of a fine one to talk. I've learnt this the hard way. I burnt myself out really pretty seriously in the 1990s. So I guess that was in my kind of late 30s, early 40s. Took me several years to recover. I thought I was invincible. I thought I could do everything, and I found out that I couldn't. So I've kind of learnt the hard way. But I also want to say, I actually had chronic fatigue, quite badly, really bad sleep. Couldn't get to sleep till 2, 3, 4 a.m. every night. Uh, and over a couple of years, I healed myself with that by nourishing my kidney energy. So really, it can be done. And I see a lot of people with chronic fatigue to give them help. So we really have to consider that balance of nourishing ourselves and then knowing how much energy we have to then give out. You can't just expect our body to give out energy endlessly. It doesn't work like that. A lot of us kind of have to get that in their head, including me. Then food-wise, what else is very detrimental to the kidneys? Ironically, energy drinks and stimulants like caffeine, Red Bull, all these things, and I would also include sugar in this as a kind of stimulant for stimulating the energy. Oh, I'm feeling tired. What do I have? A coffee and something sweet. That'll give me energy. Yeah, it will give you energy temporarily, but these foods, which in macrobiotics we call yin or expansive foods, take energy out of the body, so we get this rush of energy. But that energy is not so much coming from food, or it's coming from our kidneys. It is bringing this energy up. Coffee, caffeine especially affects the kidneys. So it's bringing the energy from the kidneys up into the body, and we feel great. But a few hours later, actually, we've depleted our kidney. So stimulants are not the way to go. Modern culture addicted to stimulants. So in a vicious cycle of low kidney energy, stimulants, that lowers the kidney energy further. You want more stimulants, lowers the kidney energy further, become dependent on stimulants to keep going. Until at some point, what happens to a lot of people is suddenly the energy crashes. Chronic fatigue, long COVID, nervous breakdown, can't cope anymore. And I think this is one of the reasons why there's a lot of people on the kind of sickness register. So stimulants, caffeine, also alcohol, sugar, really deplete the kidney energy. Also, what I'm seeing increasingly is a lot of people eating a vegan diet or near vegan diet, but eating a lot of raw and quickly made foods. I'm not against raw foods. If people have a lot of animal food and a lot of heat and excess energy in the body, raw foods can be great for a while. It really helps the body cleanse. But they're definitely not good for people that are in a much more depleted condition. And if people that are very depleted and have big kidney depletion start eating a lot of raw foods, very often they feel worse, colder, more tired, more emotionally flat, etc. What I see now is people who, they're eating plant-based, which is great. That's, in general, that's good for the health. But they're still eating maybe a lot of fruit, a lot of tropical fruits, a lot of sweet foods, a lot of sugary foods, maybe a lot of salad or maybe too much salad for them. And also a lot of just very quickly prepared food, because cooking's, gone out of fashion a bit. We're all so busy, we don't have time to cook. That is such a big mistake. You can cook really healthy food in 1 hour a day. Sometime I'm going to make a video on how to do this, because this is what I do a lot when I'm looking after myself. I cook breakfast and a good meal at supper and enough for lunch next day. And there's shortcuts you can use. You can honestly cook really healthy for food for yourself in 1 hour a day. When I get the time, I'm going to make a video over 3-5 days showing you how to do that. And not cooking is like cutting your nose off? The expression, you think you're saving time, but actually, if you're not nourishing your body and giving your body energy, you end up with less energy and less able to do all the things that you want to do. If you want to really do a lot in your life, I know I do, and I'm quite greedy in that sense, then you really got to learn to nourish your kidney energy. So those are some of the ways that we deplete our kidney energy. Ultra processed foods as well just do not nourish the kidney energy at all. It's just not surprising so many people are struggling with energy with the crap that's they're being offered in modern society. We need to do cooking, and we need some long cooked dishes, as I described earlier. So things to really nourish our kidney energy. All the things I said generally about warming foods, whole foods, broth soups. That might be a miso soup, shoyu broth, a herb salt broth. It might be a fish broth soup. It might be a fish bone soup. If you eat other animal food, it could also be a chicken broth soup or a bone broth soup. Some people like bone broths. These bone broths really nourish the kidney energy deeply. They get energy into our bones. But I'm not saying you have to eat those animal foods if you don't want to. You can also do it with plant-based, with miso soup, shoyu broth. So to have soup every day, once, twice a day. Sea vegetables, very useful. A lot of people deficient in minerals these days from eating sugar, caffeine, etc., which deplete the body and just don't have a lot of minerals in. You need minerals. Sea vegetables have a lot of minerals. Also, in macros, we make condiments. Learn how to make condiments, mildly salty things which you can put on your food, which have a lot of minerals in. So I think I've kind of covered the food and drink. Maybe I'll just say a little bit more. People with chronic fatigue can drink one coffee and it just floors them for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. Because their kidney, it's so interesting, and I experienced this myself, because your reserve of energy, which normally, if we're in good health, we have this much energy, we use it up during the day, we sleep, and that's when we recover our energy. And then we have this much energy, we go into the next day, we end up with this much, and then we sleep, and it goes like that. If you're really deeply depleted, really just struggling all the time, fatigued, that's because you only have your reserve of energy is only this much. Maybe you sleep in the night, it gets to this much, you go through the day, and then you go into the negative. You don't have enough energy to do everything. So you feel pretty terrible. You then sleep, you get a little bit of energy back. You go into the day, you don't have enough energy, you go into the negative. And that if we really go into the negative, then our body aches, our muscles ache. If we over-exercise, then all our muscular system aches. We can't think. We feel depressed. We're struggling. We feel overwhelmed. Really unpleasant place to be. So, totally avoiding coffee, sugar, and alcohol, and eating lots of these warming root vegetables, bean stews. If you eat fish soup, fish dishes, sea vegetables, etc. And if you want desserts, cooked fruit, things like baked apples, fruit crumbles, maybe that sugar, of course, to warm you up. Next, you have to become really good at managing your energy. You have to really recognize how much energy you have each day. Because if each day you go into the negative, because you are doing more than you are nourishing yourself, you are unlikely to ever get out of this deeply fatigued or chronic fatigue situation, because your body just is never filling up. What you have to do is work out how much energy have you got, and um, each day you use less energy than you have. This needs a lot of discipline, because, of course, when you're fatigued, you want to do things, and it can feel very denying or depressing to not be able to do so much. But that's what you have to do. You have to cut down on your activity, um, um, so that you're giving out less, and you spend more time building your energy with your food, cooking good food. Sleep and rest is so important. This is when our kidney energy recovers. So you need a lot of sleep. 8 hours may be enough. For some people, 9 or 10 hours could be really beneficial. So see if you can go to bed early, um, have long sleeps. If weekend, or when you're not working, you don't have responsibilities, have a lie-in. Siestas are very good, because we use up energy in the morning. Have a siesta, it picks up our kidney energy, and then we have more energy in the afternoon. So you really have to become good energy managers, and you may have to learn to say no. No, I'm sorry, I can't come out in the evenings. No, I'm sorry, that's too much for me. No, actually, I need to cut my work hours down temporarily. No, the rest of your family is going to have to cook supper themselves for a change, instead of you always cooking supper. Okay, Friday nights they can go out, they can buy fish and chips and look after supper themselves, because you're knackered. So you may have to get some practice in saying no and making boundaries in order to protect and nourish your energy, with the long-term aim of building your energy up and being able to have a normal life and interaction with people again. Do also keep yourself warm. As I described, keeping especially your kidneys warm, thermal underwear, I think is really, really useful. If you need several layers of it, which I know some people enjoy, have several layers of it. Don't feel bad about it. Don't feel silly. Just do what you need to keep really warm. Try and avoid situations where you're standing too long, which really uses a lot of kidney energy and can weaken the lower back. Try and avoid situations when you're in the cold for extended times, because, as you may have experienced, if you get deeply cold, it can take sometimes even days to really get back to the normal bit. If you do get really cold, if you do get really deeply cold, then find ways of warming yourself up. One would be to have a hot bath. It could be good to put a handful of salt, just some cheap, coarse sea salt in the bath, and then just have a soak in a hot bath until you've really warmed up your whole body. If you've got really cold feet, as I say, washing up bowl, hot water, you could add some ginger juice, soak your feet, get your feet really warm. Maybe do a bit of exercise while you're in there, while you've got your feet in there, get your circulation going as well, and you get that kind of heat circulating around your body. So if you do suffer from the cold a lot, really there are things you can do. There's a lot. You don't have to suffer this year after year. If you want some help with that, get in touch with me personally for consultation, or come along to online courses such as my online 6 Steps course, or our cooking weekend, or our 5-day looking after your health course, or our online cooking classes, or our year course. We're starting another online year course in February 2024. Come along and how to create good food and how to create balance in your life. Okay, that's it. I really wish you a warm, happy, nourishing, heartwarming, joyful Christmas, midwinter, and New Year time. Good to see you.